I request everyone to please take their seats. His Excellency Dr. S. Jaishankar, Honorable Minister for External Affairs, Government of India. His Excellency Shri V. Muralidharan, Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Government of India. Srimati Vijay Thakur Singh, Secretary East. Excellencies and distinguished invitees, members of the overseas Indian community, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Ministry of External Affairs, it's an honor to welcome all of you to the Pravasi Bhartiya Divas 2020. The first Pravasi Bhartiya Divas convention was held in 2003. These conventions have since provided a platform to the overseas Indian community to engage with the government and people. They have also provided a forum to the Government of India and various state governments to address key issues concerning the Indian diaspora. May I please request Srimati Vijay Thakur Singh, Secretary East, to deliver her introductory remarks.
Honorable External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Shri Muralidharan ji, Excellencies, friends from the Indian diaspora, I warmly welcome everyone to the Pravasi Bhartiya Divas 2020, celebrated on the 9th of January every year to commemorate the contribution of overseas Indians community to the development of India. It marks the day in 1915 on which Mahatma Gandhi returned to India from South Africa. The first Pravasi Bhartiya Divas convention was held in 2003. Thereafter, it was held every year till the format was reviewed in 2015. to make the event more result-oriented. It was decided to host PBD conventions every alternate years and to organize theme-based panel discussions during the intervening period. Accordingly, the 15th Pravasi Bhartiya Divas convention was held in Varanasi in January 2019, and the 16th Pravasi Bhartiya convention is due to be held in January 2021. In support of these biennial conventions, these panels, which I spoke of earlier, have provided a platform to overseas Indian community to continue to engage with their ancestral homeland and to facilitate the sharing of experiences between the diaspora residing in different parts of the world. The Indian diaspora, today a confident community of 31 million. It is respected all over for its work culture, discipline, successful integration with the local community, and for its outstanding contribution in their countries of residence. Our diaspora is an asset both to the nations in which they reside and to India. As Honorable Prime Minister said at the PBD convention last year, that he considers the diaspora members as brand ambassadors of India, as well as representatives of India's strengths, capabilities, and characteristics. EAM's Honorable External Affairs Minister's interaction with the diaspora today through the medium of video conferencing would be an opportunity to engage with the Indian diaspora living in different parts of the world. Considering that the Indian diaspora is spread over 200 countries and to ensure a fair and equitable geographical spread, we have tried to include at least one country from each continent for this interaction. Countries from where the diasporas would be participating in today's interaction are Perth, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Doha, Port Louis, London, New York, and Paramaribo. Given the tight schedule within which we are working, the number of questions from each station needs to be limited to not more than 2. We are, however, hopeful that these questions would adequately represent the interests of the Indian diaspora and would set the tone for the Pravasi Bhartiya Divas convention, which would be held next year. Thank you all once again for participating in today's events.
Thank you, ma'am. May I now please request His Excellency Shri V. Muralidharan, the Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, to deliver his welcome remarks.
Honorable External Affairs Minister Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar ji, Secretary East in the Ministry of External Affairs, Srimati Vijaya Thakur Singh ji, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, dear friends from the Indian diaspora, ladies and gentlemen, let me at the outset extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this year's Pravasi Bhartiya Divas celebrations. As we all know, this day is celebrated to mark the return of Mahatma Gandhi to India from South Africa. Gandhiji gave shape and character to India's freedom struggle. He demonstrated the power of non-violence, which led to the disintegration of the mightiest colonial empire in the world at that time. He also fought against indentured labor and the exploitation of Indians around the globe. Friends, the term diaspora in ancient Greek refers to a scattering or sowing of seeds. The presence of Indians abroad can be attested to from the days of remote antiquity. Our classical texts describe the long journeys that saints and monks undertook for the spread of knowledge, peace, and love. This was followed by several waves of outward migration over centuries, from the medieval period to the colonial and then the post-independence era, resulting in diverse communities of people of Indian origin in various parts of the world. The present-day travel of Indians as professionals, workers, traders, and entrepreneurs to the rest of the world is a continuing saga of Indian migration. Our common bond, however, continues to be the mother tree, India. The Indian diaspora today constitutes an important and in some respects unique force in the world. In the past couple of decades, it has grown into an energetic and confident community of over 31 millions that have given India a presence in many parts of the world. However, it's not a one-way interaction that benefits only one side. It pleases all Indians when the overseas Indian community is respected for its work culture, discipline, successful integration with the local community, and for its outstanding contributions in their countries of residence. A successful, prosperous, and politically influential diaspora is an asset to India, much as a strong and self-reliant India would be a source of strength and inspiration for the diaspora. This synergy acts as a vibrant bridge between us and sustains our relationship. The Government of India is determined to work closely with the diaspora to leverage each other's strengths to mutual benefit. The Prime Minister himself has taken the lead in reaching out to the overseas Indian community and engaging you. We welcome entrepreneurs, investors, and professionals from the diaspora to partner with India to achieve the target of 5 trillion economy by 2024. It will be a mutually rewarding and satisfying partnership. I believe you have the unique insights, perspectives, and the extensive natural links that can make this partnership work. Friends, it's therefore a particular pleasure for me to welcome the ambassadors and high commissioners of those countries where the majority of India's diaspora population lives. Excellencies, your presence here today underscores the value you attach to the contribution made by the Indian community to your respective countries. I welcome the participants in the Know India program who are here from all the Girmitia countries. I hope you had a good and enriching tour. I welcome my colleagues from the ministry who are all assembled here on this important day. I again welcome the delegates who have joined us today in this video conference from far corners of the globe. I hope your interaction with the External Affairs Minister over the next hour generates new ideas to address issues of concern to you and help enhance the quality of your engagement with India. And on this occasion, please join me in congratulating and wishing a long and healthy life to the Honorable External Affairs Minister, Sri Subramaniam Jaishankar ji, who is having his birthday today. So let me conclude by requesting you to telling you that we would welcome your new ideas and suggestions on how we can work closely together. With these words, let me welcome you once again. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, Excellency. I now request His Excellency Dr. S. Jaishankar, the Honorable Minister for External Affairs, to please address the gathering.
My ministerial colleague, Shri Murli Dharan ji, Secretary East, Srimati Vijay Thakur Singh, Excellencies, my colleagues in the ministry, dear friends, and those across the world who are with us today watching us. I'm delighted to address you all on the occasion of Pravasi Bhartiya Divas. Let me take this opportunity to wish you all a happy and prosperous 2020. The Pravasi Bhartiya Divas was a particularly special occasion for my predecessor, the late Srimati Sushma Swaraj. I would like to begin by recognizing her unique contribution and tireless work for the Indian diaspora and those working and traveling abroad. We all miss her very much. January 9 is a historical day for Indians everywhere. This day in 1915, Mahatma Gandhi returned to India after 2 decades of struggling for civil rights and basic human freedoms in South Africa. He did so not just for the Indian community, but for all oppressed people everywhere. His return to our motherland was such a momentous event that it was with good reason that former Prime Minister Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji began the practice of observing January 9th as Pravasi Bhartiya Divas. Today, we not just affirm our bonding with Indians and people of Indian origin across the world, but by doing so, we also underline the historical global outlook of India and our commitment to Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is a family. The Pravasi Bhartiya community that numbers more than 30 million today can be found in every continent and virtually every nation. It is truly representative of what our society has to offer, whether in science or creative arts, in technology or medicine, in enterprise or engineering, or in spreading Indian values, traditions, habits, and soft power. Members of the diaspora have achieved great success in different walks of life, and by doing so, define both India's capabilities and branding. They are as prominent in the world of American technology and British healthcare as in Canadian services, European politics, or African entrepreneurship. Their hard work and diligence keeps the global economy running, whether it is through leading major companies or building infrastructure. Whether it is the professionals of the Gulf or the innovators of Silicon Valley, the financiers of Singapore or the yoga teachers of Suriname, their cumulative contribution to the image of India cannot be overstated. They may be the teachers of Africa or the hoteliers of America, but each in their own way, like drops of water coming together, have created a vast reservoir of goodwill for India. In recent times, what has been particularly notable is that the deep-seated Indian democratic belief is today being expressed by the diaspora in the societies where they live. 3 prime ministers, Leo Varadkar of Ireland, Antonio Costa of Portugal, and Praveen Jagannath of Mauritius, are the source of great pride for all of us. This enrichment of pluralistic politics is also visible in a large number of legislators at the national and local levels, ranging from Canada, US, and UK, to Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Oceania. If the Indian society is a synthesis of the old and the new, so too is our diaspora. They have kept alive our roots, identities, heritage, and the very way of life. Indeed, what makes the Indian diaspora somewhat unique is that much more than their counterparts from other societies, they have maintained the physical linkages and the emotional attachment to their land of origin. We need to nurture this relationship, and I would like to underline today our government's deep commitment in that regard. A large number of programs and events reflect this approach, including, of course, the Know India program. And the one that gets the most attention, of course, is Prime Minister Modi's interactions with the Indian and Indian diaspora community whenever he travels abroad. Now, while I emphasize the role of the diaspora in enhancing India's standing in the world, there are many more tangible contributions that it has made. As our nation travels on its journey of modernity, the diaspora has, in Prime Minister Modi's words, acted as a living bridge with the world. They have facilitated the flow of resources, technology, and best practices in a variety of ways. Their networking energies and activities have helped improve global understanding of India and its aspirations. Most of all, they have helped in shaping the mindset of the upcoming generation of aspirational Indians who are so confident of engaging the world today. So what can the government do to nurture this relationship with Indians and people of Indian origin living abroad? To my mind, the answers fall in 4 broad categories. 1, we must make it easier to travel to India, and that is exactly what motivates us today to reform our passport, visa, and OCI scheme. By using technology, we have made consular passport and visa services more people-friendly, such as in mobile passport app, e-passport, e-visa, etc. The days of going to embassies and consulates for such purposes and services are now over. 2, we strive to make it more secure to work, travel, and live abroad. To that end, a number of initiatives have been taken for our migrant workers, including pre-departure training programs. Grievance redressal mechanisms such as e-migrate and the Madad portal are also examples of relevance. Our embassies have been equipped to assist those more vulnerable and in need. In extreme cases, we have even mounted operations to respond to humanitarian situations and natural disasters that affect our people, and I recall recent examples in Yemen and in Nepal. 3, our goal is to be the first and immediate responder to those in distress situations, whether they are travelers who have lost documents, students in difficulty, women in stress situations, or workers who need support. What started out some years ago as exceptions, 24/7 helplines, open house meetings, consular camps, weekend assistance, today these are the norm. My predecessor used to say that help is just a tweet away. That is still so, but now the response to the problem by our missions is often as fast as the response to the tweet itself. And 4, keeping the bonds between India and the new generation of the diaspora is a major focus of our activities. Today's event is but a small example of a larger endeavor that will continue to grow in the coming days. The living bridge must be renewed and refreshed. So, as India rises in the world, its unique relationship with the diaspora would be one of its characteristics. The world may increasingly be a common marketplace, but we also see it as a shared workplace and as a common living space. We have historically impacted the world in its thoughts and activities, and that aspiration continues to guide our approach. Today, we meet to recall the difference that one Pravasi Bhartiya made more than a century ago. May it inspire us all to each do what we can to contribute to the new India in the making. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you for that kind and instructive address, Excellency. We will now commence the interactive session with our diaspora and Honorable Minister for External Affairs. 8 Indian missions around the world in Perth, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Port Louis, Doha, London, Paramaribo, and New York, in that sequence, will interact with the Honorable Minister. In the interest of time, each mission should ask 2 questions. We will first connect with the Consulate General of India, Perth, Australia. Over to the Head of Chancery, Shri Dinesh Bhardwaj, CGI, Perth.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. There is a sizable and rapidly growing community of Indian origin in Australia, presently numbering around 600,000, of which Perth is home to about 1 lakh persons of Indian origin. The Indian diaspora greatly contributes in forging relations between India and Australia. Sir, 2 questions are being asked by the members of Indian diaspora on the matters pertaining to them. Sir, The first one is from Mr. Surya Ambati, President of the Indian Society of Western Australia. To my right, I would now request Mr. Ambati to please pose the question to Honorable Minister.
Sir, many congratulations on the Pravasi Bhartiya Divas and your invaluable address. On behalf of the Indian diaspora in Western Australia, I would like to welcome the initiative of Government of India in connecting to the diaspora across the globe through video conferencing. We appreciate various initiatives introduced for e-visa and other consular services by the Government of India. However, regarding OCI facilitation, we would like to request for further streamlining of its renewal procedure. It will be appreciated if the instructions regarding renewal can be printed on the OCI card itself. This will enable the OCI card holders to be prepared for renewals well in time. We appreciate the Indian government's efforts in participating in facilitating the Indian diaspora to maintain linkage with India through the OCI card scheme. It would be grateful for clarity on whether OCI cards need to be reissued each time the passport is renewed. Thank you, sir.
Can you hear me, or do I need to use the mic?
Yes.
You're good? Okay.
Yes.
No, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. First of all, my greetings to all of you in Perth, and it's wonderful to see so many of you today. Let me explain what is the situation regarding the rules of renewal of OCI card. First of all, these rules have been there from the very start, okay? And let me explain what the rules are. The OCI card needs to be reissued each time a passport is changed for a person up to 20 years. And the reason is very simple. At that age, facial features change. And so if you need to validate the integrity of the document, you need a constant updating. Now, once you cross 50, it's generally assumed somewhere that your facial facial characteristics change. As someone crossing 50, I can vouch for it. Now, therefore we want with the rules provide is you have to change that also, but only once after you've crossed 50 so that it is updated. Now, between 21 and 50, there is no requirement to reissue the OCI card even if the passport is changed. So, these rules, as I said, have been there from the start, but what had happened was that late last year, effort for various reasons, people enforced this in a way perhaps in which they didn't do earlier. So a lot of the airlines, I think, got involved in sort of interpreting that as well. So I got at that time a number of messages through social media and community organizations. So we requested the Ministry of Home Affairs, which deals with this matter in the Government of India, to actually take a flexible view, and they immediately, they understood the inconvenience which would happen. As I said, even if the rule was there, but the rules were now being enforced with a rigor with which they had not been earlier. So they have provided a little more latitude. They've given till, I think, June 30th for people to comply with the rules. So essentially, OCI card holder right now who's below the age of 20, if they've not got an OCI card reissued with a change of passport, they can travel with the old passport. But I would really recommend that they do that change as soon as possible. And for a OCI card holder above the age of 50, again, they can travel with the existing OCI card with the old and new passports. But I would really strongly recommend by June 30, everybody, now that people are very cognizant of this rule, they should comply with this rule. Sorry, one last point.
Yes.
We will make sure that the new OCI cards have those instructions written in, which is actually your key issue.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Sir, the second question is from Mr. Rakesh Bhan, President, Kashmiri Pandit Cultural Society of Western Australia. Mr. Bhan, you may please pose your question to the Honorable Minister.
Good evening, sir. Please accept our gratitude for interacting with the Indian diaspora through this video conferencing. My question to you is whether the government of India is working to make arrangements so that the NRIs can vote in elections in India through the Indian missions abroad. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. We are very cognizant of the fact that there has been this long-standing interest on the part of the NRI community. Now, as you would imagine, NRIs are today enrolled as overseas electors, and they can actually vote provided they are in the polling booth of their constituency. But of course, your issue is whether they can vote abroad. Now, we have, as a country, as a government, given a lot of thought to this matter. In fact, this issue has come up in the Supreme Court. The Election Commission has considered this matter. Even the Parliament has deliberated on this matter last year. So, what I want to assure you at this stage is this is very much an issue. The idea of how do NRIs exercise their mandate is very much an issue which is on our minds. We will try to find a solution that works for everybody. And we do recognize that participation in Indian elections is something which all Indians in India or abroad value very much, and we will endeavor to meet that aspiration in some practical way.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. The entire community present here wishes you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Over to Delhi now, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, CGI Perth. We will now move to the High Commission of India, Singapore. Over to our Deputy High Commissioner, Shri Ninad S. Deshpande.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Good evening, sir, and greetings from Singapore. Singapore has a large Indian diaspora which is contributing significantly to Singapore's economy and playing a very active role in strengthening relations between India and Singapore. So, two questions are being asked from Indian diaspora members on diaspora-related matters from Singapore. The first one is from Mr. Manish Tripathi, who is sitting on the right hand of High Commissioner, sir. Mr. Manish Tripathi, he is the chairman and CEO of Singapore Exchange listed company, Sevak Limited, which has also invested in India. Mr. Tripathi, I request you to please pose your question to Honorable Minister.
Namaskar and good evening, sir. So my question is related to the finance aspect of Pravasi Bhartis. As you know, there are many Pravasi who lead or own financial institutions outside India. And this 31 million Pravasi Bhartis who are Kamdars, they've made their name, they have influence and they are very committed to invest back in India in various projects. We had noted in 2019 budget that the NRI track of investment, which was called PIS, has been merged with the other financial track, right, sir? So the sectorial limits have kicked in. But now still the Pravasi still feel that the more can be done, and if there is a separate single table, not a window, single table clearance solution can be provided, a large amount of investment can still be facilitated through Pravasis. So our request is to create another track for NRIs again, which is better than the FIP track before.
Thank you, and I suppose it's good evening still for all of you. So it's wonderful to see you all in Singapore. I see a number of people I know well in front of me, quite apart from the High Commissioner and the Deputy High Commissioner. So good evening to all of you. Look, first of all, let me say this. We would, as a country, as a government, definitely like to see the NRIs invest metaphorically and literally in India in a bigger way. And we do believe that when it comes to NRIs and PIOs, they say that investment is the ultimate act of faith. and we know that you all have that faith in India, and we are very confident that that would be reflected in greater investments if we can work out channels which are convenient to all of you. So we are very sensitive to the point that you have made. Now, regarding the PIS route, the NRI Portfolio Investment Scheme route. Now, when this was merged last year with the FPI route, the Foreign Portfolio Investment route, the purpose was actually to help the diaspora community, because it was felt that as part of ease of doing business for NRIs and OCIs, that they can leverage the investment management platform which is available to FPI. So the intent was actually to be helpful in this regard. But if there are, the main point which you raised, which is, how do you make it simpler? How do you give us a single window which is very effective? What I do want to assure you is that this is very much on the radar of the government. We hope to be taking measures soon to facilitate and ease investments by NRIs and PIO. I think even in the next, in a very short while, you should expect to see some more news in this regard.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. A second question is from Mr. Atul Temurnikar, who is sitting next to me. Mr. Temurnikar is co-founder of Global Schools Foundation, which runs Global Indian International Schools in a number of countries, including Singapore and India. His Global Indian Foundation runs a cultural center for performing arts that trains artists and generally support Indian cultural programs in Singapore. Mr. Temurnikar, I request you to pose your question to our panelists.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, MOSG and Vijay Thakurji. Moving from faith, we are moving to culture, and as we all know, Singapore is a nursery of Indian classical dance and music, and has a number of institutions that teach and perform classical Indian dance and music, including large theatrical performances based on Ramayana and Mahabharata. As DHC has just mentioned, Global Indian Foundation under the Global Indian Cultural Center and the Global Indian Schools have combined over the last 18 years, trained about 78,500 students and adults on yoga, Indian dances, Indian music, Bal Vihar, and many other cultural aspects of India. Some of these institutions are getting support from Singapore government and a little bit support from Government of India. So there's a keen interest in these organizations to have some more opportunities of performances in India. So my question to you, sir, is what avenues are available for enabling these groups to perform in India and collaborate with the institutions of cultural nature in India, so that this Indian culture can come back to India?
Thank you, and good to see you, Atul. Look, I'm myself very familiar with the quality of cultural talent and performances in Singapore. I've attended many of them, some of them probably with you. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, what I would, this is an interesting proposition you have raised, because we have the Indian Council of Cultural Relations. Now, the Indian Council of Cultural Relations sends out, cultural troupes and arts, performing arts, creative arts of various kinds. It also receives them, but mostly it works on a G2G model. They have some counterpart organization in some other government. What you are suggesting is, can we provide an avenue, a platform by which Indian community organizations, PIOs, NRIs, can they find institutional support in India for such activities? I will speak to President ICCR. I think it's a great idea. But I would also, now that you got me thinking about it, there's an excellent Singaporean practice which I admire, which is how to sponsor cultural events. I've always been impressed by how successful they have been in that. So I would say, well, I will work on this. At your end, if you can also work on how to sponsor such visits in a more effective manner, that would be hugely helpful. So, between us, we can get a good match of resources energy, activity, platform, visibility. But it's certainly a great idea, and I will pursue it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I also take this privilege to wish you a very happy birthday on behalf of entire Indian community and also High Commission of India in Singapore team. Over to Devi now.
Thank you.
Thank you, High Commission of India, Singapore. We will now move to the High Commission of India, Kuala Lumpur.
Thank you very much, Minister Sir. A very happy birthday from the Malaysian Indians present here, as also from the Indian community and the Indian High Commission. Sir, Malaysia hosts one of the most active PIO community, numbering 2.76 million. It is the second largest community in the world after the United States. And they form a very strong organic bond between Malaysia and India and contribute significantly to cementing our strong relationship. Two questions are being asked by the Indian diaspora member here. The first one is from Datuk Panjamurthy on my right, an eminent social worker associated with Ambedkar movement. Please pose your question.
Good evening, Honorable Mr. G. My name is Datuk Panjamurthy, the President of Dr. Ambedkar Organization of Malaysia. My question is, the current third and fourth generation of Malaysian Indians having almost no contact with the roots are facing immense challenges in obtaining OCI due to the unavailability of necessary documents. Is Indian government devising any mechanism to help PIOs in getting such documents? Thank you.
First of all, good evening to all of you, and thank you for your good wishes. And I'm so happy to see so many of you out there. You know, this issue that you have raised, in a way, it's sort of special to Malaysia. We've had a few other countries where we've had similar situations. And my sort of considered response to what you've said is, I think the rules need to respond to the situation. If you have a situation where, because you're dealing with third and fourth generation, there is not enough documentary linkages, we'll have to look at it and see if we can figure out a sort of a carve out which would address that need. So what I would do is I would request my officials who are dealing with this matter, maybe we send a team, and because as I said, we've had this situation in a few other countries, not too many that I can recall. So let's look at what documentation is available, what other ways there are of validating the linkage with India, and I can assure you we will take a very positive view of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The second question is from Dr. Shanmugh Shiva. On my left, he is a renowned doctor and an alumnus of Madurai Kamaraj University. Please pose your question, doctor.
Namaskar, Honorable Minister. Due to marital dispute, distressed Indian women married to foreign nationals are left to fend themselves abroad without any kind of social, legal, or financial support, even without visa. Dear sir, is there any long-term plan to address these issues in consultation with the local governments?
Thank you. First of all, let me say that we increasingly recognize that this is a serious issue in many societies. I want to make it clear that, obviously we have zero tolerance for any situation where there is harassment or violence or exploitation of women. And certainly as a government, we have a larger commitment to gender empowerment and gender justice. So in a sense, everything we are trying to do at home, I think that same strength of commitment is also there for NRIs and PIOs abroad in this particular respect. So since the issue has gained prominence in the last few years, we have tried to address it in a variety of ways. And we particularly have responded to situations of deserted spouses or of, as you say, marital disputes which actually require some kind of intervention. Now, we have provisions to provide counseling, guidance, and information about legal procedures so that the people concerned are informed of their rights, are made aware of what their rights are. We have also put in place mechanisms for serving judicial summons on overseas Indian spouses in cases where the other spouse is in India. We assist in filing judicial cases in India and in issuing lookout circulars where these are required, and sometimes, frankly, where the situation demands, we have looked at impounding and even revoking the passport of people concerned. Now, often these situations are abroad, that where it is in India, most of what I've said would apply. Where it is abroad, I would say awareness is part of it, emotional support is part of it, and resources is actually part of it. So when we expanded the usage of the Indian Community Welfare Fund, this was one situation for which we had catered. So we do see this today as a significant social challenge, but we are determined, as with many other challenges, that we will respond to it, that our embassies and missions will be empowered, will have the resources and the directions to do what is necessary.
Thank you, Minister Sir, for affording this opportunity to the members of the Indian diaspora. Over to Delhi now.
Thank you, Ambassador. We'll now move to the High Commission of India, Port Louis. Over to our Deputy High Commissioner, Shri Janesh Kane.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the gathering here, sir, let me extend our best wishes for your birthday, sir. Ancestors of as many as 2/3 of the population of Mauritius came from India, most of them several generations ago. Indians continue to work and settle in this rainbow nation even today. The community not only played a critical role in achieving independence of Mauritius 5 decades ago, but has equally contributed to the transformation of the country into a vibrant democracy and a prosperous modern nation. More than 400 Mauritians participated in the Pravasi Bhartiya Divas celebrated in Varanasi a year ago, where Honorable Prime Minister Praveen Jagannath, an OCI cardholder himself, was the chief guest. We also have two questions, sir. The first question would be asked by Mr. Dharam Yash Diodhuni, who is the chairman of Pravasi Ghat Trust Fund. Sir.
Honorable External Affairs Minister of India, Sri Jaishankar ji, good evening and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Sir, I am Dhani Dharam Yasdev, the great grandson of Dhani, immigrant number 315-847, who came from Bihar like many others as a Pravasis to Mauritius. He came on 24th July 1865 at the age of 40. He was born in the village of Birari in the district of Bhatia and the region of Chapra. Sir, on behalf of all the Mauritians, my question is, what support can Government of India provide to Indian origin Mauritians who want to trace their roots in India?
Good evening to all of you. Good evening, good afternoon to all of you. Look, I do recognize that, tracing one's roots for everybody is very important. And I think for those who have emigrated, there's an emotional psychological significance, which is really quite extraordinary. Now, some years ago, we had a scheme called Tracing the Roots. Okay, I think a few people, some people used it. For some reason, the scheme was not, either it was not well known, it wasn't user friendly. I really need to look at why it didn't catch on, because when I looked at the number of people who used it, I was not terribly impressed by the numbers. So what I would do, I realize what the importance of what you're saying. So let me go back and see, does that scheme work? What needs to be fixed? What needs to be different? If it doesn't work, do we need a new scheme? But it is certainly a very important issue. I note it, and I'll see if in a matter of a fairly short time, I can actually come back to you with a practical solution for tracing roots.
Thank you.
So the second question is being asked by Ms. Gayatri Ramcharan Shambhu, MSK, Director of the Indian Ocean Center for Education in Human Values.
Namaskar. First of all, dear respected Minister, sir, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to have this interactive session on behalf of the Indian diaspora of Mauritius. And we wish you Badhai, Janamdin, Abhinandan. And our question here today, the program initiated by the Government of India to facilitate travel by diaspora individuals to familiarize themselves with India is commendable. But there is a high demand for such facilitation across various age groups in Mauritius. Can the Government of India consider increasing the number of people who can be accommodated in such visits? Dhanavad.
Thank you. We do understand, we do appreciate that the diaspora would like to undertake, in a sense, spiritual journeys in India where they are able to really connect with their roots, their tradition, their heritage. Now, we have, as you know, this initiative where, a large part of the resources is met by us and some part of it is met by the person concerned. Now, what we have been doing is to talk to the IRCTC, the railway people, to see if we can provide facilitation for more facilitation for people to travel to these places on their own. One, we certainly would like to. We expect to see more competitive packages, which will allow more people to go on their own. In terms of the initiatives that we directly oversee, we've done some packages. I think we've done 3 packages. My sense is there's a 4th next month, or maybe in March. But noting the interest, we will certainly see how best we can maximize this. How can we, because there will be people for whom just the opportunity and facilitation will make all the difference. There will be people who may need a little bit more than that. So I think we need to look at the entire spectrum of people involved. But I take this as a very good suggestion. Certainly, I will sit and work with my colleagues in the ministry to see how we can expand this program.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Over to Delhi.
Thank you, HCI Port Louis. Our mission in Doha will be joining us next. Over to our ambassador, Shri P. Kumaran.
Good evening, sir. Greetings from the Indian community in Doha. Sir, as you know, the Indian community in Doha numbers about 7.5 lakhs, and it is the largest expatriate community in Doha. Over the years, they've contributed substantively to enhancing India-Qatar relations. The Qatari leadership and the government readily accept our seminal contribution to the growth and development of Qatar over the years. So we have two questions from the Indian community in Doha. The first would be asked by Dr. Naina Wag. Naina ji, please go ahead and address the Minister of Education.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Respected sir, as you may be aware, that Qatar currently extends the facility of visa on arrival to a number of countries, including India. While this has made travel to Qatar much easier, but some unscrupulous recruiting agents are taking advantage of this facility to bring in housemaids and other workers without the necessary clearance from the government of India. Such workers are particularly vulnerable as they do not have protection of a formal contract and are unable to take advantage of a new reforms introduced by Qatar government to its labor laws. Honorable Sir, we would like to know how can Government of India ensure that the abuse of the visa on arrival facility is prevented and a suitable legal action is taken against such unscrupulous agents. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, this is a very serious problem, and I want to say very clearly that we will take the toughest action against unscrupulous agents. In fact, we have in many cases initiated such actions when we get evidence or examples of wrongdoing on their part. The people who go out to work in a country like Qatar, I think these are people who need the fullest support from our system. We give that support in terms of preparing them before they go, but I think equally it is important that you know their contracts are legitimate, they are enforced, and so what we've done, you know, in many cases is to actually enter into agreements, and in the case of Qatar with both labor and manpower agreements. So on the one hand, it's the preventive steps that we take, steps with, you know, both in terms of contractual steps, awareness steps, deterrent steps, which is when something, you know, wrong happens, that we punish the people who are responsible for it. But I also want to say and recognize here that the government of Qatar has taken some steps which are helpful in this regard. I think the fact that they have fixed minimum wages, that they have decided to bring the domestic sector into the purview of regular labor laws, I think these are positive developments. So this is an area where, you know, the governments, the community organizations, obviously the embassies who represent the government out there, we all need to work together. But this, I can assure you, this issue is very, very strong on our radar. We have a very clear view of commitment to protecting the interests of workers abroad, and we will remain very, very vigilant and positive in this regard.
Thank you, sir. The second question is by Dr. R. Sitaraman, CEO of Doha Bank. I would now request Dr. Sitaraman to go ahead and address the Minister with this question. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. On behalf of the entire Indian community in Qatar, we want to wish you a happy birthday. What a coincidence, and what a great joy to be taking part of this day. Last 2 decades, I've seen huge increase in volume of migration. To address the various issues associated with the migration, what are the steps taken by Government of India, number one? Also, what are the safeguards available to immigrants against fraudulent recruitment agents, and support available to immigrants who are in distress situations abroad?
I think there's a lot out here, some of which I addressed in my remarks as well, but let me very quickly give you 4 or 5 sort of sharp points here. One, of course, is that we have taken a number of measures, particularly this government has had the welfare and protection of our migrant workers very, very high in our agenda. So we've actually seen measures like Madad portal, the e-migrate. We've expanded the use of the Indian Community Welfare Fund and given that more resources. We've set up Pravasi Bhartiya Sahayata Kendras. We have the Pravasi Bhartiya Bima Yojana scheme. We have the Pravasi Kaushal Vikas Yojana. We've opened 24/7 helplines in many of our missions, including Qatar. We do the pre-departure orientation programs, which I spoke about in my earlier answer. So I think the idea is, the problem is so complicated in a way. There's no single fix. It starts from the time before they even leave India, all the way to when they are out there, make sure that their rights are enforced, make sure that they get what is their due, to make sure that they are not mistreated or in any way taken advantage of, because we understand we understand the vulnerabilities of such people, and it is our duty and obligation to address that. Particularly, I think awareness raising and departure preparations are important. We have a program called Pre-Departure Orientation Programs. We've done about almost 80,000 training for 80,000 workers under that. We have centers, more than 20 centers in different parts of India. And, we want to expand this so that when our people, once someone goes out with more awareness, they're also more confident. They will resist being taken advantage of as well. But at the end of the day, we know that we have to modernize our rules and regulations. That too is on our mind. We've had discussions within the government. We hope soon to introduce an immigration bill which will actually address a lot of these issues. So I can assure you, we value very much the community, the contribution of the workers. We are very, very dedicated to their welfare and protection. And whether it's legislative, whether it's administrative, whether it is, in a sense, inspirational, we will be there for them.
Thank you very much, sir.
Once again, our warm wishes on the occasion of your birthday. Thank you very much, and over to Delhi, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. We'll now connect with the High Commission of India, London.
Good evening, sir. Thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to wish you a very warm happy birthday on behalf of Indian Diaspora and High Commission of India, London, sir. Sir,
thank you.
UK is home to the UK is home to 1 million Indian diaspora who are highly successful and have contributed significantly in establishing cordial relations with India and UK. Two questions are being asked by the Indian diaspora members on diaspora-related matters from UK. The first question is from Mr. Jaishankar, who is an eminent social worker and community leader in the Indian diaspora in UK, sir. So may I request Mr. Sandhu to please pose your question to the Honourable Minister.
Honourable Minister, Jaishankar ji, very, very happy birthday to you from the entire Indian community here in Great Britain as well as the people sitting here. We are very proud of you that you understand the issues of NRI living abroad more than any person in the ministry has happened before, because you got intensive diplomatic experience and you have covered a lot all over. The question which I am going to ask later, but first I'd like to congratulate our heartfelt thank you to you and the Prime Minister of India, who has organized 550th anniversary of Guru Nanak Dev Ji all over the globe.
message, his philosophy, his teaching has been spread all over the world due to the kindness of Prime Minister Modi and you, sir. It has happened we have organized many events in Great Britain through High Commissioner, Her Excellency the High Commissioner of India here in UK. My question goes to you, sir, that by doing that, you have won the heart and the souls of all, not only Indian or the Sikhs, but the entire sensible humanity by organizing Guru Nanak 550. And you have taken so many initiatives to leave this landmark in the history. My question is, sir, you have partly answered before about e-visa. That was a very positive step which you have taken. But now, I just like to ask you, what other steps you are taking to liberalize this e-visa regime further? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening to all of you, and first of all, thank you very much for your words of appreciation and support for the initiatives that the government has taken with regard to the 550th anniversary of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And we know that we have the support of the entire Sikh community, of course, obviously in India, but also all over the world. And I thank you for your warm words in that regard. Now, regarding the e-visa issue that you raised, you know, today the e-visa, e-visa, bear in mind, is a fairly recent initiative. It just started a few years ago. But already it covers 169 countries, and we give e-visas for 5 broad categories. So initially it began with tourists, so part of it is expanding the category, the users of e-visas. Today it's tourism, it's business, it's conference, it's medical attendant. We've also expanded the number of airports in India where you can land with an e-visa. It obviously started with a few, but today 28 Indian airports and 5 Indian seaports have been designated as being eligible to process e-visas. What we've also done is we have expanded the spectrum of the e-visas. So you can have short duration e-visas, you can have long duration, multiple entry e-visas. The idea, of course, is to do it at an affordable cost. So at times when it is off season for tourism, we have catered for that by reducing costs as well. So the bottom line really is use the digital medium really to make getting visa simple, address as many users as possible, make the ground, the physical arrival points of e-visa holders more seamless. And that's really what we have tried to do. And I was very happy to note that UK is actually one of the largest users of e-visas. So that's something very, very positive. And I really hope very much that just as we have made it easier for the community, for all UK nationals to come to India, similarly the visa regime at the other end would also be eased up so that more people can visit their families, and it becomes very much easier for Indians also to see their family members in the UK. I look forward to that very
much. So the second question is from Mr. Mohan Kaur. He is president of Indian Professionals Forums in London. Mr. Kaur, please pose your question to the Honourable Minister.
Honourable Minister, let me join others to wish you a very happy birthday and happy new year, decade 2020. As you know, the Indian professionals in UK and globally are in every walk of life. In UK now, in politics, very extensively, in government, in academics, in healthcare, in business. And globally, there are now a large number of Indian CEOs heading global companies as well as working globally. And every year there is a Davos, World Economic Summit, some of which you have attended before, and large number of diaspora who are heading businesses do attend that diaspora, that meeting in Davos. My question is, would you like to consider organizing a global Indian investment summit to coincide with the Davos, either at the beginning or at the end? And if so, we could, I would suggest that the theme of that would be building global value chains for making India the 5 trillion economy that the Prime Minister and you yourself mentioned. We would really like to have such a summit in London because it will be a global place as well as it's close to Davos. So I hope you would consider this suggestion.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be very pleased to consider the suggestion. In fact, you know, I strongly believe that a big difference that PIOs and NRIs have made has been in a sense, connecting India to the world, in providing India with access to more resources, to technologies, to best practices, to change mindsets. So I'm really very, very appreciative and frankly personally acquainted with a lot of this. In the last few years I've had occasion to meet CEOs all over the world, many of whom are of Indian origin, and I am particularly impressed by many of them who live in the UK. They have been leaders of industry, not just in the UK but globally. So since you have made this suggestion, let me take advantage of it and say that I will seriously think about actually doing a global CEOs, a Pravasi Global CEOs conference in London. We do the Pravasi Bhartiya Divas convention is every alternate year. It will take place in January of 2021. So sometime this year, I think we can seriously look at the possibility, and I will count personally on your help and support in that regard.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to Delhi now.
Thank you, HCI London. Our mission in Paramaribo, Suriname will be joining us next.
Thank you very much.
Over to our ambassador,
Our heartiest.
Shri Kanyal. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Our heartiest felicitations and warm greetings from Suriname to Honorable External Affairs Minister, Minister of State for External Affairs, Secretaries, and all those who are part of this special event. We are honored that Suriname was chosen one of the 8 countries for live interaction with the Honorable Minister. The vibrant Hindustani community makes one feel that Suriname is a mini India away from India. It consists of 27% of Suriname's multicultural population of about 591,000. It acts as an important bridge in building the people-to-people ties and strengthening bilateral relations between India and Suriname, which are close and friendly. Indian music, dance, song, movies, TV serials remain integral to Indian diaspora in Suriname. There are a score of PIO radio and TV channels. Suriname has a distinctive place among Hindi-speaking foreign countries. The way Indian diaspora in Suriname has preserved their heritage and traditions by holding on to their roots, folklore, cultural, linguistic, and religious practices, and remain connected with India in hearts and minds is truly laudable. Their commitment to Bhartiyata has done India proud. I would now like to introduce the chief guest today, the Vice President of the Republic of Suriname, His Excellency Shri Ashwin Adhin, along with ministers, Ms. Lanini Gopal and Mr. Surjan, honorable members of parliament on my right, and members, community members from all walks of life of Suriname. I would request the Honorable Vice President to greet the Honorable Minister on behalf of diaspora. Over to you.
Thank you. On behalf of the Republic of Suriname, the government and its people, I wish you well on your birthday today, Honorable Minister, or both ministers today. And of course, we commend you on the 4 points that you mentioned. It says a lot of your endeavors for now and the future. Of course, Suriname has been strengthening its bond with India through the ITEC program, No India program, of course the ICCR for many decades, and the bilateral meetings that we have been doing intensely. And of course, the visit of your President, Ramnath Kovind-ji, to Suriname has been a historical feat. So we commend you, and we hope that we have 2 questions, of course. Suriname and its people, as children from Bharatvarsh, have been integrated in Suriname in all walks of life, be it private sector, the public sector, and civil society. And of course, we have to hear their questions as well. Thank you again.
Thank you, Excellency. Now the first question is from Mr. Maurice Hassan Khan, the noted academician and historian and former Home Minister, who had also attended the PVD conference held in New Delhi in 2016 on documenting history of migration and achievement of diaspora in Girmitia countries.
Thank you very much, Excellency. From my part also, congratulations, Aapke Salgira Mubarak ho. And I would like to congratulate the Indian government with this initiative of interaction with the Indian diaspora across the globe. Really, that is a very, very laudable initiative. And I hope this will be continued in the future. So my question as a scholar is regarding academic collaboration. And at different conferences, diaspora scholars have talked about the idea about establishing branches by Indian universities in diaspora countries. And when I talk about diaspora countries, then especially I mean in so-called Girmitia countries, where people went long ago, 150 years ago or longer, and they're staying there. So in the Girmitia countries would be very good if it is possible that Indian universities can establish branches in those countries. And for that, they need to support from the government. Because if you leave it only to the universities, it will not be done. That is what I expect. So I hope that the Indian government sees possibilities in this. That is a good initiative. And I'm talking about this not only on behalf of Suriname, but on behalf of different Girmitia countries. And I know that there are a lot of young people who would like to go to India, but although there are possibilities, they cannot go all of them. So if there are branches of Indian universities, and in first instance, I am thinking on, for instance, distance education. Indira Gandhi National Open University is the first one I'm thinking about. So I would like to know what is your opinion about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and Excellency, Mr. Vice President, Ministers, really it's a great privilege to see you digitally across a distance, but you know, this is an occasion for us to get to know each other. I hope to welcome you here physically or come there myself one day soon. But let me come to the question. I think it's a very important point you made, which is really how can we connect with each other where the world of knowledge is concerned, world of education is concerned. And again, it makes sense to, if you are doing it, to start really with distance education, because as it is, it is online, it makes it easier for people to join up. My recollection is there's been some discussion in the past, in the last few years, actually specifically pertaining to IGNOU. So what I would urge is that perhaps we can pick up on that and see, certainly on our end, I will energize it, we can look at it, and we would be very open to find a way. I should add that actually we have embarked on a fairly ambitious distance learning project in Africa, but that is less university centric. This is much more structured in terms of what you are suggesting, but I would be very open to what you are suggesting. I would like to pick up on where matters stand and take them forward.
Question is from Dr. Dev Sharman, Honorable Member of Parliament and Hindi poet, who had also attended the PVD panel discussion on role of Indian diaspora community organizations held in New Delhi in 2016. Thank you, sir.
Namaste India, Namaste Dr. Jaishankar ji. आपके सालगिरह के उपलक्ष्य पर हार्दिक बधाई और आशीर्वाद प्रस्तुत है भारतवंशियों की ओर से. Coming to my question, dear sir, I'm very thankful for you of having the KIP program, the Know India program. But I think, as you mentioned, we are a big family, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So I suppose there should be look upon the opportunity of giving young Indians the chance to visit the diaspora countries, not only to get them interested, but to strengthen the ties. We have a lot to offer them. And actually, we will support as Indian communities this idea. And actually, you are ready to welcome the first group. Thank you very much.
I'm very glad to hear you say that, because today actually this is the second or third good idea that I've picked up. If you were connected with the interactions with the other embassies, typically we send out cultural troops. We got a suggestion from Singapore to actually whether they could send in to India a troop. Now you reverse the direction. Typically we ask the young people from the diaspora countries, particularly the Girmitia societies, to come to India. You've now given me the reverse flow. I will look at it. I'll find a mechanism which will work. I think possibly to some degree the Indian Council of Cultural Relations is a possibility, but again, I've really, since you have sort of put the idea forward, let me reflect on it. I will take it very seriously. I would certainly like to see something like this happen.
Thank you very much, sir. Over to Delhi.
Thank you, Excellency. The eighth and last mission to connect with us today is the Consulate General of India, New York.
Good morning, sir.
Over to our Consul General, Shri Sandeep Chakravarti.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good evening, sir. Very, very warm greetings from a very, very cold New York, sir. It's -8 degree, -8 degree outside. But as you can see, we are gathered in large numbers here. More than 150 people have gathered here to greet you and to interact with you. People have come from all the states of our jurisdiction, from as far as Ohio, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, to be here with you today. The Indian diaspora in the US is India's largest diaspora, estimated to be about 4 million. And we are very proud and happy that in the consular jurisdiction of New York, we have more than 2 million diaspora. And the diaspora is a strong pillar in the expansion of India-US ties. So the first question is from Vivek Patel. He is on my left. He's a youth icon. And after the Pulwama terror attack, he raised $1 million on Facebook to transfer to Bharat Ke Veer and to the martyrs' families. He has a question to ask you, sir.
Good evening, Honorable External Minister, sir, Dr. Subramanian, and wishing you a very happy birthday. My question is that how can we transfer charitable donations from members of Indian diaspora to India? is it possible for Indian embassy or consulate to facilitate this transfer of donation to India? Because we have been facing several hurdles in doing so.
Well, it's possible to make donations, whether it's to the Prime Minister's Relief Fund or to Bharat Ke Veer through accounts which are managed by the government. Typically the donations, when it comes to people abroad, these are sent to our embassies or to our consulates, which then send these funds to India. Now, sometimes we also get questions whether it is possible to make contributions to other charity organizations and institutions, this is something we have been looking at, obviously we'll have to see how this works, because we understand the desire of the diaspora. We understand the desire of the diaspora to contribute, the kind of occasion that Consul General was talking about. Everybody wants to show solidarity, we want to show support. So we'll have to figure out a way which is practical, which would work for you, which would work for us, which would keep within the law, which would ensure that the funds go to where they are meant to go. So at the moment, the best way is still through the embassy and the consulates, but let me discuss with my colleagues in the finance ministry whether there are other additional avenues that we can offer.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. On my right is Dr. Thomas Abraham. He is the chairman of GOPIO, the Global Organization of People of Indian Origin. It's a pioneer organization working for the Indian diaspora. So I would request Dr. Abraham to ask his question.
Honorable Minister Dr. Jaishankar, good evening.
Good evening.
Namaskar, Vanakkam, happy birthday greetings.
Thank you.
We also extend our greetings from the 200 people assembled here to all our missions around the world where our diaspora members are assembled. My question is, Government of India has taken several steps to reach out to Indian diaspora overseas. However, there is a lot of misperception and misunderstanding about the Sikh community abroad. Last year, I was personally involved through our group, GOPIO, to correct some misinformation related to Sikh community in one of the towns in Connecticut. The question, Honorable Minister, can you please elaborate on what steps Government of India is taking to address the issues related to the Sikh community?
Thank you, and good to see you, Dr. Abraham. Look, first of all, let me say, where we are concerned, there are no misperceptions about the Sikh community. They are an extraordinarily diligent, hardworking, patriotic, contributing community in India and abroad. There may be a few people who are, pursuing their own agenda and in a way in which it is detrimental to the interests of India. But I want to be very, very clear here. Overall, we see the vast majority of this community as people who are deeply attached to the welfare, to the security, to the integrity of India. So I want to make that very clear. Now, in terms of what has happened in the past, and I recognize that, having served in embassies during the last 30 years. We know that there have been complaints from the community about, and we all know the reason why, for denial of consular services for some people. Now, this government has taken the initiative to address that. We have decided that political asylees of Sikh origin and their family members who in the past could not obtain passports and consular services will now be allowed to do that. We have facilitated opening of visas and OCI services We have made sure that any measures which would have prevented them from coming back to India no longer apply. So I can tell you that this is a very, very big step which the government took a few months ago, and I know that it is very widely welcomed in the Sikh communities across the world and in India. I have myself received very positive feedback on that, and certainly I think that is the real test of what we think. Now, in terms of the issues which have been in the mind of the Sikh community, obviously a lot of that revolve around the atrocities of 1984. And again, I want to state very clearly that as a government, we are committed to ensuring that perpetrators of atrocities are brought to justice. You know that in some cases, the cases, where cases involved relating to the anti-Sikh riots were closed, we have had them reopened and reinvestigated. We have looked at compensation for people who have been affected by the riots of 1984. In certain cases where people were detained, we have even gone to the extent of providing humanitarian assistance. So this is something which deals with very unfortunate events of the past. But again, I want to make it very clear that does not color our perception. I think today the community is forward-looking, the government is forward-looking. We need to deal with what happened in the past in a just manner. We also need to move on. And right now, I would say the big issue which has captured the attention not only of the Sikh community but all of India has been the 550th birth anniversary of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And you know that we are celebrating it really in India, internationally, in a very grand and befitting manner. And his message of peace and equality and brotherhood, I think is very relevant in today's world. Now, the last few months have seen some very important initiatives which have had a huge impact on the Sikh community, and one of which, of course, is the Kartarpur corridor, which we have developed from Dera Baba Nanak in Gurdaspur district to the international border, so that pilgrims from India can visit the Gurdwara Darbar Sahib in Kartarpur. Now, similarly, the historic town of Sultanpur Lodi, which is associated with the life of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji, that is being developed as a heritage town. And we've had commemorative coin and postage stamps in his honor released by the Government of India, and in some cases by foreign governments as well. And the Ministry of Railways will be actually running a train which will pass through places which are associated historically with Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji. So let me take this opportunity, therefore, once again on the 550th anniversary to reiterate our very, very strong relationship with the Sikh community. We value their support. We actually recognize that they, perhaps among Indian communities abroad, they have been foremost in actually shaping the image of India, in building the brand that I spoke about, in creating for us many of the relationships with the world. And I'm really so glad that today you have chosen this occasion to highlight this particular relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your detailed answer on the Sikh community has a lot of relevance for New York, sir, because in the US we have a large Sikh community, and I think your answer is very, very well appreciated, sir. With these words, sir, I wish you bye, sir, from New York, along with all members of the Indian community. Now over to New Delhi.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, CGI New York. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for the interactive and enriching session. Many thanks to the enthusiastic participation of members of the Pravasi Bhartiya community who joined us from various Indian missions around the world. This brings the program for this day to an end. On behalf of the Ministry, I thank you all for attending the Pravasi Bhartiya Divas 2020 event. I request everyone in the audience to please remain seated while the ministers leave the hall. You are all cordially invited for high tea, which is being served at the restaurant on ground floor. Thank you.
All going for tea.